Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about one of the scariest parts of the English language, articles. Now, don't worry because there are a lot of rules about articles with a lot of exceptions to these rules. But together, I think we can figure this out and make you feel comfortable using these on any written, spoken exams you may take or just speaking with a native speaker. So, there are three articles in the English language that we need to talk about. A and an, the indefinite articles, and the definite article. Now, you may have some questions about what is indefinite, what is definite, and what are the rules that we use when we're talking about all of these. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But first, let's take a look at our indefinite articles and explain how to use them. So I've just explained to you that the two forms of our indefinite article are a and an. But how do we use these? Well, we use an in conjunction with a vowel or a vowel sound. Now, what does that mean? If the word that comes after the article begins with a, e, I, o, or u, then we should use an. And we should also use an if the word after the article begins with a vowel sound, as happens many times with the letter H. Some examples of words that we use an with would be, for example, in the phrase an apricot, an apple, an article, an interesting story, an elephant, an interview, an unforgettable story, or an hour, starting with an H, but it still has the vowel sound. And of course, there are several other examples that we can use, but for now, just know that vowels and vowel sounds, we use an. For everything else, we'll use a. So let's look at some cases of usage of both a and an. Now, a and an are used when we're talking about something in a general meaning. We don't mean a particular example of something. We just mean one or any. Such as in the examples, I'd like a cup of coffee, or give me an apple. In these examples, I don't really care which cup of coffee. It could be that cup of coffee or that cup of coffee. I just want one. I just want a cup of coffee. Similarly, for the apples, I don't care which apple I get. It could be this apple or this apple or this apple. I just want an apple. And the word apple, because it begins with a vowel, just like we talked about, we use an. Now, we should also note that we only use indefinite articles for nouns that are countable. For example, apples or cups. Now, I'd like to bring your attention to something else. If you noticed, the word apple is countable, and we only use indefinite articles, a and an, with nouns that are countable. For example, you could not say, please give me 2 advices, right? Similarly, you cannot say, please give me an advice. You would need to say, please give me some advice, or simply, please give me advice. But we do not use the indefinite article with uncountable nouns, only with countable nouns. So if we paraphrase the previous example, it sounds like we're saying, give me some fruit, please. Or, I bought some fruit. So some more examples where I can use a and an are in the following. I can say, is there a napkin in your bag? Here, we're asking about its existence for the very first time. I can also say, Jake is a doctor. And here I'm providing to you new info. And a third example, yesterday I met a girl. Here, again, I'm mentioning this girl for the first time. The girl turned out to be my childhood friend, the second time I've mentioned her. So as a rule then, we can say that a and an we use when we are talking about something for the first time, when we are introducing it to the conversation. After this, we should switch to the definite article the, but we'll talk about this a little bit more later. So, talking about the definite article, let's move on and explain what the definite article is and how we use it. Now, the, or the, and its pronunciation will change depending on A, the speaker, B, the speaker's accent, or C, the place in the sentence. But don't worry too much about it because it doesn't really matter. You can pronounce it any way and no one will find it strange or weird. Just be aware that when you're listening, it will sound different. The definite article, the, is used when we're referring to something specific or definite. It is something that we know. It's that particular one. For example, the hand I am showing you, this hand here. Let's look at a few more examples. I can say, for example, sports shoes are expensive. Now here, I'm not using the. But if I say, I want the black sports shoes, here, I want that pair. I know exactly which pair I want, and the pair that I want is the one that I'm going to buy. So, we, in this case, can use the to discuss things that we already know about or have already mentioned in the sentence. The black sports shoes. I already know that they exist, and I know that I've been thinking about them and I've been considering which pair I want to buy. So in this case, I use the. Another example that we could say would be, have you already read the book I gave you? Or another example, please bring me the vase from the kitchen table. We use the here when we give a listener additional info about the thing or the person that we're talking about. If you asked me, which vase should I bring you? The answer would be the vase in the kitchen. Two more examples that we can say would be, the sun has already gone down, but they are still walking in the park. Or we could say, the wind was blowing in their faces, but they did not stop climbing. Here, we're using the to describe objects which are unique. They're the only one of their kind. The wind, that specific wind. There's no other wind like it. Or the park. It's that exact park, and no other park is exactly the same. So we say the park. But we should also note that if we are talking about special aspects of abstract nouns, if we're describing qualities about them, what they look like, feel like, anything like that, we should use a instead of the. Just like in the examples, a pearl white moon smiles through the green trees. Or scientists believe that there is a strong relationship between mental and physical health. Here, because we're describing abstract nouns and abstract ideas, we use a, especially if it's the first time we're mentioning them. However, there's one additional thing you should note. If we are using a transitive verb or a verb with an object in the sentence, then we may use either a, an, or the to describe it. So, for example, if I want to say, a pearl white moon smiled at me through the trees, I could also say, the pearl white moon smiled at me through the trees. And you will see this form appearing in fiction from time to time. Now, there's also another way that we can use the definite article, and let's look at a couple of examples which use this usage. Hilary Swank was the best leading actress of the year 2000, and the airplane is the fastest means of transport. Here, and I know you've seen these at least once or twice before, here we're using the superlative form of the adjectives, the best, the fastest. And because there's only one of them, it is definite. So we use our definite article, the. Now, we don't just use the with the superlative form, we also use it in the comparative form sometimes. For example, if I say the sentence, the more you read, the more you know, or the older I get, the smarter I become. Here, I'm using it to make comparisons. The older, the smarter. The more, the more. And I'm using it in the comparative sense here. As one increases, so does the other. And there's one more way that we can use the, our definite article, and let's look at some examples first. I can say, the unemployed are people who do not have a job, or the tiger is a wild animal, as well as the euro is more stable than the dollar today, and the piano was invented during the Middle Ages. If I'm generalizing about a group or a kind of object or people, then I may use the to talk about the group in its entirety. I'm talking about all of it. The euro, all euros, euros in general. The tiger, all tigers are wild animals. So I may say the. Now, you should also memorize some of the more specific usages of the. For example, we use the when we're talking about the names of countries or places, which include the following words: republic, kingdom, state, union, or they are a collective geographic name, such as in the examples, the USA, the Federal Republic of Germany, the United Kingdom, the Czech Republic, the Netherlands, the Philippines, the European Union, or the Alps. We also use the when we're talking about names of places that use the of construction. For example, the Statue of Liberty and the University of Cambridge. We also use the when we're talking about the names of seas and rivers or oceans. The Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Black Sea, the Dnipro River in Kyiv, the Nile, as well as in time phrases such as in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, the day before yesterday, the day after tomorrow, or during the day. And also in compass directions, in the north, in the south, in the east, in the west. However, some phrases, especially time phrases, will have no article. For example, at night, at noon, at midnight. Here, if you remember, we don't use at for time with an article, as well as every year, every month. Here, because we're not just talking about one, a specific, or the month, we're talking about all of them, so we cannot use either article. Here, every year, every month, next week, last year, etc. Also, be careful with articles in the following expressions. For example, to go to school, to go to college, to go to university, to hospital, to go to church, to go to prison, or to go to bed. If you use the, and we will never use a or an, if you use the in these phrases, it changes your meaning. It changes the definition of what you say. Because all of these are idiomatic expressions. I'm going to university. I'm literally saying I am attending university right now. However, if I say I'm going to the university, I have changed my meaning to something literal. I am physically traveling to the university. I'm going to the university. So just keep in mind that if you add an article here, your meaning becomes literal and is no longer idiomatic. You have changed what you have said. So let's look at how this works in two examples. In my first example, if I say, did you go to the school yesterday? I have a specific school in mind. Maybe you needed to deliver papers or meet with one of the teachers. But I'm asking you, did you go to the school? I'm asking about your trip.